the man that came up with this, the man that designed this cooler and came up with this idea is David. And so, the short story is we came from Coleman and he's a product designer. So man, tell him all about it. Tell us where it came from, how you got it, all that good stuff.
Yeah, we like to say Chad is the mouth and Dave's the brain.
That's right.
and you need both to be successful. So
yes, you do.
Yeah, so basically, foam is the world's first 100% EVA foam cooler. So when I say EVA, you're like, huh, what's that? And EVA is short for ethylene vinyl acetate. So that's a fancy word for a mixture of rubber and foam. You might know this material from Croc shoes or bog bags. It's a relatively older material, but coming out in a lot of different markets now.
Episode of Everything Intellectual Property. Today, we have very special guests with us. This dynamic duo has created a lightweight, durable cooler that even floats when it's full. Please help me welcome the co-founders of Foam Coolers, Chad Lee and David Kittle. How's it going, gentlemen?
Hey.
Going well. How are you?
Hey, I'm pretty good. It's Friday here. It's I'm going to the Pistons game later on tonight. So it's going to be a good time, and I'm trying to kind of end the work day off on a pretty good note. How about yourselves?
Doing well. Made it through.
Yeah,
it's been pretty busy over here, but we made it through, and looking forward to the weekend.
I think I'm the odd man out here. I need to change my name to David or Dave or something.
D squared or something.
Yeah. No, that's great. Pistons game would be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. For whatever reason, they've had a number of home games this week. I know they played Boston Wednesday, which they ended up beating Boston Celtics by 20, which was a good win. And they beat the Clippers on Monday, so they played Denver Nuggets today, which will be a pretty good one. So they've kind of had a good run where they've been kind of beating some teams. I think they won 8 straight. So they're playing good basketball at this point in the season.
Absolutely. Yeah, if they could put down they put down the Celtics, that's huge. If they put down the Nuggets, that'd be huge. I'm a Thunder guy, being from Oklahoma originally. So, we had that dynamic team in the beginning when we first started, and then we kind of just disappeared. And now we're back doing it again. And so I'm hoping we're going to do something special.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have probably been the most consistent team out in the Western Conference this year by far. And man, it's good to see OKC doing good. I know they had some time where it was like Westbrook, Durant, Harden, where you guys were really good, and then maybe had down years, but then being able to bounce back. I always love checking out your games because it seems like the crowd is rocking in Oklahoma City. Which
it's a small arena, man. So yeah, it gets light. It's just a skosh bigger than a college arena, So.
Well, it definitely seems like it's fun going to those games when I see them on TV, and obviously when a team is winning, that makes it all even more better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I typically like to, I guess, get it on to the topic of discussion here, you guys, with foam coolers, and for those who may be watching on video or just listening to it on a podcast, or only the audio version, I always like to see if you guys can kind of maybe give a description of the actual product, just so the kind of listeners can kind of visually or kind of see what's going on. And then I think I also have, to the extent that you guys don't have maybe an actual one, I can kind of pull it up.
I always got a cooler with me.
Okay, there you go. Heard.
And this is the actual one. Like if we had a foam cooler museum, this would go in it. This is the actual one that we ran over on Shark Tank with the steamroller.
Really?
Yeah, this is it. It's all good. But
yeah, and I was going to ask about that later on once we get up into the Shark Tank experience, because I thought that was crazy. Obviously, kind of breaking the stage or whatever the case may be. It seems like that was definitely an experience, to say the least. But then, can you maybe explain, just because typically when I've kind of seen coolers personally, and this is the cool thing for me about just IP and tech and things like that in general, because you think, okay, everything, it is a lot of stuff out there, and you think there's no way that you can kind of protect this thing or that thing, but then you kind of see the product and you hear about, being able to get IP protection on it, which again is even cool. But typically from a cooler standpoint, of what I've seen is like kind of hard plastic coolers, which obviously they can be heavy and and whatnot, not as flexible. And then you have maybe the styrofoam coolers, which again maybe is a little lighter, but it's still a little bit more rigid compared to what you guys have here, which is again a flexible cooler. It's kind of flex, but it still kind of gets the job done in terms of cooling as well as kind of durability. Correct?
Yeah, so typically I tend to dominate conversations, so I'm gonna be quiet here because the man that came up with this, the man that designed this cooler and came up with this idea is David, and so the short story is we came from Coleman and he's a product designer. So man, tell him all about it. Tell us where it came from, how you got it, all that good stuff.
Yeah, we like to say Chad is the mouth and Dave's the brain.
That's right.
and you need both to be successful. So
yes, you do.
Yeah, so basically, foam is the world's first 100% EVA foam cooler. So when I say EVA, you're like, huh, what's that? And EVA is short for ethylene vinyl acetate. So that's a fancy word for a mixture of rubber and foam. You might know this material from Croc shoes or bog bags. It's a relatively older material, but coming out in a lot of different markets now. It's pretty much the material in any midsole athletic shoe. So if you have an athletic shoe and you have a midsole, typically that is made out of EVA. Yeah, like you're on video, you can see Chad right there. Yep. All shoes are made out of EVA foam, and most of the machines set up to manufacture EVA are tiny because they're for shoes. So when we started, developing this product, that was, a major hurdle we had to overcome.
Nice. Go ahead.
I was just saying one thing that we always forget to mention, but I think is a really big hurdle that we overcame. But David, can you explain the difference? Because a lot of the shoes are compression molded, and we're an injection molded, and that took a lot of brain power for David and the team to figure out how to do.
Yeah, so like any manufacturing, so I don't want to get too in the weeds because I can do that. I can geek out a little bit because my background's product design, so I can geek out about injection ports and draft angles and everything. EVA is crazy because you can have undercuts, which is basically you can't do that in plastics. Nope. Like from a design aspect, it's a designer's dream because you can come up with crazy different avenues and designs that are, typically not able to manufacture. But yeah, there's two types of manufacturing of EVA. One is compression molding, where they just throw EVA foam beads into a plate and then they put it in like an oven. And that's how a lot of the sandals and stuff are made. Injection EVA mold is more like injection molding, where they inject into a mold, and that's how our cooler is made.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. And like you said, from just a technical standpoint, and people don't know it obviously with manufacturing, some manufacturing processes allows for a little bit kind of more details, or like I said, in this case, undercuts than others. I know I do a lot with additive manufacturing, otherwise known as 3D printing, which allows for some of those details and features to be in different products that you just wouldn't be able to do, whether it's with compression molding or injection molding or whatever the case may be. So and again, this is actually pretty cool because you guys met at, I think, Coleman, where it seems like maybe Chad, you're more so on the sales side of things, and then Dave, you're a designer for Coleman.
Yep. We met at Coleman. Oh, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
So it was like my second job it was my dream job. I moved from Chicago to Wichita, Kansas for it. So, I became a great designer at Coleman because they have so many different products they work on, things like that. I gained a lot of different experience. I met Chad, so it was a great experience.
Yeah. Nice. And I'm sorry, Dave, I keep cutting you off.
No, you're cool. Go ahead, Chad.
My side of it is the first half of my career I was a product manager. So the difference between like that and what David does is my job would be to like look at the market, find like a business opportunity, so to speak. Where's there a hole or a gap? And then I would come to someone like David and say like, hey, listen, I don't know what we need, but like this category, there's no innovation. It seems like there's opportunity for it. There's a gap here. What should we do? And then, that's where someone like David comes in and looks at the market himself and looks at what's out there and comes up with really cool products that, we can go get sourced and made. And The second half of my career, when I moved to Bentonville, Arkansas area, was to more on the sales side. And so that's when, I worked with companies like Walmart, Costco, Sam's, representing large companies, businesses at those retailers. And so, between both of us, we had a lot of competency in a lot of different areas. And that's been really critical, us being able to complement each other.
No, yeah, and I was going to ask for you guys to kind of be able to talk about that a little bit. I know, obviously when you're starting a company, it can kind of run a gamut in terms of whether you have one person, whether you have three people, whether you have two people. And again, it kind of, like I said, it runs the gamut. But to the extent that I always kind of find, to the extent that it's multiple kind of founders or co-founders or whatever the case may be, having those kind of diverse or different backgrounds kind of helps out in terms of working well together. Because, for example, if you have 2 engineers or 3 engineers together, everybody can kind of maybe be stepping on each other's toes, and then you are probably not getting maybe some of the salesy side or the advertising or marketing side of the business that's still important, just because people want to focus on their expertise in that case, engineering. But with you guys, David having the design background and then you having a sales background, can you talk a little bit about the importance of that when you're trying to kind of bring different skill sets to the table to have a flourishing in a great business, as opposed to having 2 salesmen or maybe 2 engineers or designers trying to kind of figure it out? Not saying that situation can't work, but maybe it's a little bit more challenging compared to kind of bringing 2 individuals that have different skill sets that complement each other to be able to start and grow a business.
Yeah, totally. And maybe we can kind of back up and kind of explain, and that might make sense a little bit more. So I own a design firm and employ several designers. We help bring, products to marketplace. So we help, just inventors, design and bring to market. So we were doing good there, and I had a little bit of extra time. So I started, designing and developing, a product for myself. So, I started thinking about, what are things that I know and I'm really good at? And then also what's something that I want to work on that's a lot of fun. So, I've designed so many coolers in the past, and, coolers, typically you're not in a bad mood when you use a cooler. It's like, you're going to go have fun when you use a cooler. So like when we go do photo shoots, everyone, like, it's just me bringing my cooler around on my regular day, just having fun and taking a shot, like in the corner when I'm already having fun. So I tested the market by doing a crowdfund. And I think for the listeners, listening in on this, like, test your product very, very quickly and see if people are interested, because it takes so much to put into this that you really want to know if it works or not. And I think I work with a lot of founders on my day-to-day as well. And people are scared to share their idea because their idea is not protected. They don't have a patent or something.
Yeah.
So like, I'm like, don't be scared. Like, obviously put, NDAs in place or non-disclosures in place to protect yourself. But like, it takes a ton of work to get a product off the ground. No one's really looking to steal ideas. You want to make sure that you're putting enough effort into the product that you can find a winner. So I tested that as a crowd fund, and we did well on the crowd fund, and Chad saw it, and I was like, all right, what's next? Like, okay, we have to get this into stores. We have to get it on, e-commerce stores and things like that. Like, I don't know how to do any of that stuff. And Chad's like, well, that's what I do. So Chad's like, I could help you. So, using our core competencies in different ways really helps us leapfrog a lot of the competition if you're just doing it by yourself. So I think someone said, if you want to do it, something long and fast, do it with someone else, basically.
All together.
Yeah. And to build on to what David's saying, I mean, 100%, like, I couldn't tell you the amount of times I tried to start something or do something on my own. And it's just so hard. And it's not to say it can't be done,
right?
Because people do it all the time. But I highly recommend, like, find you a partner. If you have a business idea, find someone you trust, find someone you get along with. That's one thing you learn about David and I, is our personalities they're so similar, but so different. Like, I would say our humor is similar. Our mannerisms are different. And, David gives me a lot of rope. Sometimes that's not a good thing, but, and I'm pretty resilient, and so we work off each other really well. And we also know when to kind of step back and let the other person, do whatever it is. But finding someone you gel with is super important, and finding someone that has a complementary skill set to you is really important. The last thing I'll mention about that kind of gets overlooked all the time is you see David and I, but the amount of people behind David and I couldn't even begin to give you a number around that. Like even at our watch party that we had, we didn't know how many people would show up. We sent out invites and things, and I think we probably had 200, 250 people or something there. I mean, it was a blast. And wow. These are friends and family and colleagues and people that help us. And I'll tell you, lean on your network, lean on your friends. Don't be afraid to ask for help. People want to help people, typically. And you should want to help people, and we were just talking about that before we jumped on here, but that's something really important to us,
No, yeah, for sure. And again, a couple of things you hit on that I love, like you said, people helping people. That's kind of part of the podcast, as you kind of talked about beforehand, that we were talking about before kind of jumping on this thing. But so let me ask you guys this, because again, another thing that you talked about in terms of like trust, and it's one thing to have complementary skill sets, and I think Charlie Munger, rest in peace to him, Warren Buffett's partner, had kind of said it maybe best, something along the lines, I'm paraphrasing here, that hey, you don't want to go into business with a bad person, even though they may be kind of good at what they do. If they're kind of a bad person, you don't want to go into a business with that person just because it's only a matter of time before things go south, or things crumble or burn down, or whatever the case may be. So for you guys, what did you guys see in each other? Obviously, you guys have the complementary skill sets with the designer and salesperson, but it seems like you guys maybe didn't necessarily grow up together. So it wasn't like you guys knew each other for forever or whatnot. So what was it about each other to the point where it's like, okay, I can trust this person, or yeah, you guys can trust in each other to the point where it's like, okay, this could be a good partnership, aside from just kind of the skill set being complements, but we actually work well together. And this is somebody who I can trust and kind of going to business with.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about character. So you get to know someone, and you really, what do they do in certain situations? How are they in stressed out situations? Are they cool? Are they willing to help? Are they willing to admit they're wrong? It really comes down to, are you a good person, and how is your character and your moral compass? And and just daily things. Like I'll be driving with Chad down the road, and we're late to a meeting, and he sees someone on the side of the road. He's like, "Oh, that person needs help." And I'm like, "Yeah, but we have a meeting to go to." He's like, "No," and turns the car around and goes help this person. And lo and behold, this person is a buyer at a big store, and he's got a meeting set up with that person on the side of the road. Like, that's just the person Chad is. His network is gigantic, and it's because his character is so good, and that people just want to help him. So I think, in any situation, character, that's what it all builds upon.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's going to be hard to top that. But I mean, character is the kind of the center point of all of it, right? And then someone that you can I have a couple of rules of my that when I work with someone, and one of them is I don't formalize any kind of like working relationship with someone until I have a meal with them. And David and I, we exchange a lot of messages. Because we live in different cities. I'm in Arkansas. He's in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we work together virtually all the time. But before we actually formalized anything, we got together, went to I can't remember the name of the place, but this really cool burger place in Charlotte, and we sat down and just kind of talked through like what we were looking for, what we wanted, what we thought about the company, where we thought we could take it, and made sure we were on the same page. And then after that, we kind of just went, and I will say one thing that kind of gets overlooked a lot of times. A lot of people may look at us and be like, gosh, they just got lucky they found each other and connected, and they just got lucky everything worked and all that. And, I just don't know if I could trust somebody. Well, we have all the trust in the world for each other, but we still have agreements in place to protect each other.
Yeah.
And there's and those could be things like, I don't want to, David doesn't want me to run down the street and sell my portion of the company to someone that he's stuck working with. So, we each have first right of refusal on things like, and, gosh forbid something bad happened to one of us. David can tell you about that later. If something was to happen to one of us, we don't want the other person being stuck in a bad situation. And so, we do have, they're not crazy formal, but we do have written signed agreements in place with each other, and to protect each other and the business.
Yeah, relationships are complex. Like it's like a relationship. Communication matters. Like, do you communicate with your wife well? That if not, then you're probably going to get in trouble. Just with like a business partner, if you're not communicating and you have different expectations, it's not going to work. So just being open and honest with what your expectation, wants, and needs and desires are. Everything else pretty much, falls into place.
Well, and I like that. I was going to kind of follow up with you guys because obviously working at Coleman's, you guys were kind of coolers were a part of, I guess, the job and the day-to-day function. But typically, you will see, or in many cases, you will see somebody who's kind of started a business that's kind of completely different from what their day job was. And a lot of times what went off into that kind of business idea was maybe solving a problem for themselves or solving a problem for maybe a family member or whatever the case may be. And then they're like, okay, I think I can start a business off kind of this particular product or service that I'm offering or providing. For you guys, was the inspiration really just, okay, kind of looking at the kind of the cooler landscape and kind of seeing where maybe it was some holes, or was it like, okay, maybe kind of running it or solving an issue or solving a problem maybe in your guys' personal life that kind of led to foam coolers? Was it kind of really just kind of more so based on what you guys were dealing with in a day job, or was it maybe some kind of a personal story or a personal thing that you guys were trying to solve for that kind of also went into kind of coming up with foam coolers?
I think, obviously your experiences build upon what you're going to develop. So did we think we were going to, come up with this revolutionary idea? No, like obviously our experiences in the past put us in this position to take an opportunity and change that opportunity into something else. So like if you go back and look at coolers, every single cooler innovation comes from a material change. So everything going way back to the first cooler was rabbit fur, and rabbit fur turned into styrofoam, and styrofoam turned into blow mold, and then blow mold turned into the Yeti rotomold, and then now you're seeing injection mold, and now hopefully EVA foam is the new innovation. So, would I know that if I didn't work in coolers? Probably not. I wouldn't have connected the dots. But did that dictate my path? No.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll tell you, David said something to me, and I don't know if you can remember saying this, David. I'm going to paraphrase it, so it isn't exactly what he said, but it's close. But I asked him at one point, like, why coolers? Because he's done everything. David's done everything from baby carriers to roller coaster parts to bikes to cooler. He's done everything, and I've worked in categories like pet and greeting and hardware and tools and obviously sporting goods. So we've kind of had very diverse backgrounds, but why coolers? And I asked him about that one time, and he was like, to be honest, I just wanted to work in a category that was fun, where I could take it on my boat and travel to trade shows that are at beaches and stuff.
Yeah, you go to a beach and that's a business expense.
I was like, I'm sold.
All right, let's do it. Oh, that's pretty simple and straightforward. And I actually love that. And again, that's part of the reason why just being an IP attorney and just kind of innovation is one of the things I love, just because there's no like one size fits all. Like when I was talking earlier about maybe people, a fair amount of people kind of solving a problem for themselves. Next thing you know, they have a product and a business. But I think on the other side of that coin, you can kind of leverage the experience that you have kind of accumulated over the course of years in your kind of maybe day job, so to speak, and maybe you identify a hole in the market. And you're like, okay, you said it on the show, David, like, okay, I'm making all these other people a ton of money, or helping a part of other people making a ton of money. Let's kind of do that for myself or for ourselves now. So yeah, I just kind of like things run the gamut in terms of the size or the shape or whatever the case may be of an entrepreneur. It's not just kind of this one size fits all.
I like to mention too, like the listeners thinking, they have this diverse background and they learned all this at big corporation stuff. But me and Chad learn new stuff every single day. Like a great entrepreneur is someone who's curious and who is a good problem solver. Like we're figuring out this stuff day to day as well. Like I'm not an expert in a lot of things that I do. Just because I'm an expert in the thing that kind of kickstart this doesn't mean that we're not, amateurs everywhere else.
I'm still trying to figure out what cash flow is.
I mean, again, that's like a real thing though, because again, a lot of people who kind of started a business. I know I've kind of got off in real estate 10 years ago, so just kind of learning a lot of new things. But people think they have to have everything figured out before they go into business, and it's almost like the complete opposite. You almost maybe know what you know, and you kind of learn, like you said, pick up and learn new things along the way. And hopefully, when you're years down the line, you have kind of maybe a grasp on some fundamental principles or kind of terminology or whatever the case may be. But a lot of that stuff you kind of end up just picking up as you go, as opposed to just kind of having or knowing everything before jumping into it, which I don't think a lot of people understand. And they kind of think, oh, we have to have everything figured out before I go. And I'm kind of one of those people just to kind of jump in, and I'm okay with figuring things out as I go.
Yep. Someone once told me that if you're not embarrassed with your first product, you waited too long. And that stuck with me a long time. And like talking about not doing something and looping into what you do, like I did my own provisional patent. Like I jumped in there and I wrote it and I figured it out. And I'm like, all right, I can test this for a year in the marketplace, and they're not really reading this necessarily. And then you can turn it into a non-provisional later. And when we turned it into a non-provisional, it didn't mess it up. So like I did something right by just going through the patent office, reading as much as I can and going through. Obviously you need a lawyer. I'd recommend a lawyer, but you can get through it.
We might know one if you need one.
And again, I think that's a good segue into the whole IP side of things. And maybe Chad, I'll start with you on this one, just because I would imagine that David, just from his background in design, he maybe knew about IP. And obviously I told you guys the story ahead of time of a lot of people, a fair amount of people not knowing about IP, whether it's trademarks, patents, whatever the case may be. And again, it's been a fair amount of people I've kind of brought on, whether it was a Shark Tank business or, a non-Shark Tank business, that they kind of found out about IP on the fly and maybe made mistakes here and there. So did you guys kind of know about, or maybe Chad, did you know about IP? I would imagine that David had maybe a little bit more experience just being on the design side of things. But did you guys kind of know about maybe IP and the importance of it as you were saying, okay, we're going to form this company and start kind of selling a product?
Yeah, I would say so. One of the short answer is yes. Did I know about it as much as David or as much as an IP attorney? Absolutely not. The thing about being a product manager is my job is to know a little bit about everything and not a lot about anything, And so I knew enough to be dangerous. Let me put it this way. I knew enough to get my name on the patent when I was part of the idea.
But that's important. That is important too. I would just tell the client, I'm like, hey man, if this person didn't work on a patent, we can't put him as an inventor. If you do that, that can invalidate the whole thing. So we need to get inventorship correct. So I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah. So if you search my name on the USPTO, you'll find, I think I have 2 design patents that my name is listed as an inventor. Coleman owns those patents, but so typically when I was at Coleman, I would work with like David or another designer or something, and whatever the product or the solution for the gap that we identified, whatever that product ended up being, it would typically be it'd be either one of 3 or all 3 people on that patent. It would be the product manager, the industrial designer, and then a lot of times the engineer would be kind of the 3 people that would make their way into a lot of the patents. But now that's about what I knew about it. Now, I knew enough to understand the difference between a design and a utility. I knew enough to understand a provisional and an issued and the filed and all that. Now, did I understand all the claims? Did I understand all the drafts or the, what do you call it? The drawings? See, I can't even tell you what it is.
One with drawings. Yep.
No, absolutely not. Did I understand prior art? Maybe a little, but it's not hard with today's day and age to jump in and watch someone like yourself, Dave, watch a couple of your podcasts, and you'd be surprised how much you can pick up just to at least speak a little bit of the language.
Well, Yep, for sure. And again, I think what David said is I mean, I think it's spot on. Now you probably want to have an attorney help you out when it's time to convert it to a non-provisional. But again, hey, you can write that. I think Rig Strips, I want to say it was the name of the company who I think they were kind of saying on Shark Tank. They wrote their kind of patent up on a napkin and submitted it. So again, with these provisionals, there's no formal requirements with the USPTO. And again, obviously you have to pay. You're probably going to be considered a small entity. You could pay $100 or $200 of a filing fee, but you can kind of write that up on a piece of paper or whatever the case may be and kind of submit that yourself. But then when it's time to convert it to a non-provisional, be able to kind of go to an attorney at that point. But at least you have gotten started with the process, and you have that filing date. I think as you were talking about, David, as you know, before going out and starting to test the market and see if this is a actual need for. So I love what you said there about kind of filing a provisional. That's something that, hey, to the extent that you can file that as on your own, that it's no harm, no foul of doing that. Now I'll probably kind of at least get maybe an attorney, a patent attorney, when it's time to kind of convert it to a non-provisional. But at least with that provisional to save costs, definitely kind of file
$200 and you're good. Right. You get to test your idea. And like, you know, I'd also say, you know, I talked to lots of attorneys and lots of them said, hey, you can't patent this cooler. Like it's just a material, you can't patent it. I'm like, well, yeah, but it's not just a material, it's XYZ, explain it. And, you know, we went to several attorneys and then one is like, okay, I understand and let's do this. So it did take a couple tries where people said no. So if you're at home and, you know, if it's not working, doesn't mean no, you know, because if I just first attorney I talked to and it was no, and I went on my way, we wouldn't have got our issue. So I would say, you know, make sure that they understand what it is that you're kind of doing.
Oh, go ahead, Chad.
Oh, I was just gonna build on to what David said and just say, yeah, when you're trying to convey what you're trying to accomplish, also don't just think about your your IP in one form. Because, like, for example, for us, we've got our utility patent that's issued, we've got a design patent that's issued. We also have we're on the supplemental registration for the trademark for foam. So, you know, obviously you don't want to bury yourself in legal fees, but you do gotta. I think of IP as kind of like since we're all kind of football guys here, that's kind of like your lineman, right? Like they're gonna get you some initial protection, but you still got to run and do things and move, and you know, and at some point somebody will catch you. But
and someone's gonna rip you off. But a patent doesn't mean anything unless you're willing to fight for it. So,
and that's really with all IP. And I mean, I like the football analogy, and I would also say, Chad, in terms of even like tools in a toolbox, there you have your trademarks that's maybe good for one thing, you have your copyrights that's good for one thing, you have your patents, whether it's utility and design, that's good for other things. And at least kind of having as much of this kind of IP or kind of tools in a toolbox, you can kind of use them at your disposal, where, you know, some it's kind of less costly than others, but just being able to have a number of things that you can kind of fall back on when it's time to enforce your IP, I guess as needed at that point, which, you know, is always good from an IP perspective.
Yeah, and we've been pretty aggressive. I mean, we've even taken ours. We actually just paid our fee to take it and get our global like file the global patents. So like I think we're doing Canada, Japan, Australia, Europe, Mexico. I think I'm missing one, but yeah, we're doing quite a few different countries too. And you know, at the end of the day, I don't know how, like, you know, you, like David said, you got to fight your patent, but at least in the beginning, when someone says, oh, it's got a patent, that a lot of times, like if I, like, coming personally from me, a product manager at lots of big companies, that a lot of times would be enough to just scare me off and make me say, it ain't worth my time, I'll just do something else.
No, yeah, and again, that's what the whole kind of thing is for now. Somebody who's a little bit more sophisticated. There's good patents out there, there's bad patents out there. It's patents that are easy to design around. There's patents that has a little bit more teeth that is going to be tougher to design around. But you know, that's it. I don't know. I just think, and maybe obviously I'm biased just being an IP attorney, but I just think here in the U.S., particularly, obviously one of the biggest markets in the world, if not the biggest. And I don't know. I just think we sell IP to the rest of the world, whether it's copyrights in the forms of the movies or the TV shows that you like. You think about your big brands, whether it's a Starbucks, whether it's a Nike, those are all trademarks. when you think of your favorite technology brands or whatever the case may be, or just kind of product brands, whether it's Microsoft, Apple, or foam coolers. Again, it's all this stuff where it's IP around it in some form or fashion that we're selling not only to ourselves here in the U.S. but also the rest of the world. And I think that was a great point of our being able to protect that stuff, because I know especially your product, not all products have this kind of global appeal, but definitely with coolers, foam coolers, you guys have that global appeal. So it's cool and it's good to hear that you guys are protecting this in other countries. I know some people kind of miss those filing deadlines because it is kind of bar dates, if you will, where you become barred from being able to get protection in other countries. But it seemed like you guys were able to kind of take advantage of trying to file for protection in other countries, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is expensive and it is an investment. It's definitely a tool to use.
Yep.
So it's super important if you can afford it. But there is ways to do it slowly and as the market proves itself. So if we just jumped in there and did, non-provisional right away, that probably would have been a bad idea.
Yep.
So make sure that you just do your research. There's so much information on the internet and so many people that are willing to help. Like, just reach out to me in chat. Like, I am more than happy to answer your email if you have a question. So.
And I was going to ask, just what you guys kind of having worked at Coleman, and maybe this didn't apply because you probably, I'm not sure if you guys still work at Coleman or if you're kind of no longer working at Coleman. I interviewed Cynthia Wong, who again was another Shark Tank contestant. I think the company she had was Life Raft Treat, so it had essentially like a chicken drumstick. It's in a form of a chicken drumstick, but it's an ice cream. She actually sent me a bucket. Those were phenomenal. But again, one of the things that she said during the interview, which again, she was a pastry chef, so coming over from her job when she kind of went into business for herself, the actual company that she was working with tried to essentially get her IP at that point, and it was a trade secret. But since she had disclosed the secret sauce to the public, she couldn't get kind of trade secret protection on it. But again, you hear that a lot of times, or you kind of see that a lot of times, where if you're working with a company kind of doing that thing in which you're going into business for, a lot of I don't say a lot of times, but sometimes the company can try to say, hey, well, you kind of developed that or kind of got that experience while you were working for us and using our kind of resources and so forth. So we believe that IP belongs to us. Did you guys have that experience at all, or was it kind of a lot more?
I think because we've been out of the game, we haven't been employed by Coleman in 20 years or whatever.
Oh,
so it's or not 20 years, like 10 years, but still, like it's been a long time. So it's not like we would have been on this idea way sooner if that was the case. So.
Yeah, Coleman's been bought and sold since then, and I mean, we've been out of that game for so long, and I can tell you, back when we were in that game, like I was primarily in grills at the time, so I didn't really have anything to do with coolers. I can tell you want to know about a grill. David was in all kinds of categories, but I will tell you, you mentioned earlier, like there are some things you could probably do yourself, some things you need an attorney for. I will tell you, if you're at a company right now, especially like a big CPG company or something like that, and you do have an idea, I would 100% talk to an attorney before you try to step out and go do something with it, because you just don't know. Like, the majority of people are good people, but I have seen big companies go after people, and it's if you have an idea, you definitely want to make sure that it's that you're doing it the right way, and that you don't owe anything to that company before you go and do something.
Oh yeah, or you're not kind of doing something like you said that's going to get you sued. So I mean, I think that's great advice. Like you said, just if it's something that you're selling, like you said, grills, and all of a sudden you're kind of doing something in, I guess, coolers, and you're not even touching the grill department, and that's one thing. But if you're doing something that's maybe at least tangentially related to what you're doing in your day job, like you say, you may want to get that clear so that you're kind of not exposing yourself. Which I completely agree with that. Now, I guess maybe kind of moving on to like the Shark Tank experience. How did that come about? It seems like you hear a lot of kind of run of the story meals where maybe Shark Tank reached out to us, or we applied over and over again, and we finally got the call back. How was your guys' Shark Tank experience kind of leading up to the show to kind of be on the show?
Yeah, the experience was great. Obviously it's very stressful. And obviously you talk to a lot of Shark Tank people, so we can tell you a lot. We can't tell you everything, but yeah, so really, it was by accident. So I was working on a baby product, and I shot a text to one of my clients thinking it was a different person. I've worked on Tush Baby's products before. Tammy and we're at Tush Baby. She's awesome. I wasn't trying to contact her. I was trying to contact another baby company, and she's like, "Oh, how you been?" And I was like, "Oh, good. I got this new company I've been working on." And she's like, "You should be on Shark Tank." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that'd be awesome." And she's like, "No, let me introduce you to Max." I'm like, "Okay, cool. That'd be awesome." So I was like, "All right, probably like it's probably not going anywhere. Like it's just introduction." So we shot an email to Max. He's like, "Oh, just send me an email in February." I'm like, "Oh, okay, whatever." So sent him an email in February, and he's like, "Okay, let's just I want to talk to you guys. Let's see if it's worth kind of getting your application and everything." So me and Chad jumped on a call with him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I think you guys would be great for the show." So then we put our application in and waited like everyone else to find out if we got picked. So yeah, that's kind of how it started.
It's a hurry up and wait process, and it was, I will tell you, it was worth all of the blood, sweat, and tears, and time and energy and everything that we went into it. We learned a lot. I always tell people we had a business before Shark Tank, but we didn't really have a business till we went through the Shark Tank process. And what I mean by that is they were asking us questions that they're like, "Hey, do you have this insurance policy? Hey, do you have this? Do you have that?" I'm like, I guess we will. Yeah. So it really helped us. And what I mean is the application process, the details of it, and the things that you have to do, and the things they require of you, helped formalize us as a business, because it made us think about things that we never really. It's not that we didn't think about it; it just wasn't a priority to us. And so, by the time we got done with the whole process, which they're very strict on talking about the process, so we don't really talk about that very much. So by the time you go through it and you get done with it, I would say whether you film or air or get a deal or none of it, just going through the process makes you a better company by itself.
Oh yeah, and it definitely seems like that was the case. And again, even going back to maybe something that David, you were saying as far as kind of the network, again, I know it was on accident, but if you kind of didn't know that person or have that person in your network to be able to accidentally reach out to, it seems like that maybe wouldn't have happened, or at least happened at the time it did. So again, just kind of going back to the importance of network seems to be important as well. So then you guys, seems like I would imagine that you guys prepared, I guess, feverishly to get on the show. But then, and obviously, kind of for those of listeners, of those who didn't see the show, it was an episode where you guys, like you said, the cooler that you showed at the beginning was the one that actually got ran over. I forget the machine that you call it.
Steamroller.
The steam, then it broke the stage. Where you guys like, oh shit, like no, again, it was obviously Mr. Wonderful had kind of made a kind of joking comment about it. But were you guys nervous in real time, or was it like kind of whatever?
No, I'll tell you my side of it. I don't remember it even happening. So the one thing I always tell people about the Shark Tank experience, and David, it's so funny because I'm the super talkative, outgoing. I want to be in the middle of everything, and David tends to be more of the chill, kind of just like go beach guy, go with it, And we get there, and I'm all amped up, and then we go out to go through the whole thing, like to set up to like walk in. And I look at David, and I'm like, I think I'm about to pass out.
Really?
And it's like our roles flipped.
I'm like, I got this. Let's go.
We go in there, and it's not that I was nervous about being in front of them, because I work with all the big retailers and very affluent, wealthy, powerful people, and all the time. So it's not like that's really bothered me. I think it was just the process and just the all the pieces. And then, we get out there and we stand on the rug, and I'm looking at the sharks, and they're looking at us, and they eventually they say, okay, go. And in my mind, I feel like I'm watching a show. And when they say go, I'm like, oh crap, we have to actually
do something.
And so luckily David was the one who kicks it off. So he took it and he ran with his part, and then I was able to jump in and do mine, and it all worked out. But yeah, to go circle back to what you were saying about the steamroller when it backed up. I don't know that I even realized it happened, because if you go back and watch it, I was the one who ran up and grabbed the cooler. And so while that whole debacle was going down, I was like looking over the cooler, like, please be okay, you know? And because that's the first time that cooler had been run over ever. And
So you guys didn't like practice running over the cooler with a steamroller?
Oh my gosh, we practiced
we
so
did.
many times.
Okay.
Yeah, like 500 times. Obviously the cooler does perfect. Like we have coolers that have been run over like hundreds of times, and they're still fine.
Nice.
But I think what the biggest thing I remembered was the noise it made. So like on TV, it doesn't sound as bad. In real life, that crack was so loud that I was like, what? Like, did like the steamroller explode or anything? Because from our view, that we can't really tell what's happening. And I was like, what just happened there? So yeah, it was a blast, and obviously it made great TV. So
they provided the driver. So when Mr. Wonderful was like, "Oh, y'all, I'm gonna have to pay," I was like, "No," I was like, "That's your guy. That's on y'all."
Yeah, that makes sense that they would have led with that. Like, okay, maybe your guys need to kind of, I don't want to say go back to training, but at that point, that's not on you guys. But yeah, it seems like at least on the show, it seemed like they made it seem like it was more of a big thing. It seems like maybe the noise was loud. It seems like Chad, you kind of I don't want to say kind of blacked out, but still kind of weren't necessarily worried about that. You were kind of worried about other things.
Straight meeting the other Shark Tank people as well. I heard you had Taverns to Go on there. We rode the bus with them. We got to know them really well. So like it was cool meeting other people going through the same thing as well.
Oh, yeah. Nice. And then again, it seemed like in your case, you guys had a number of offers, particularly the two between Kevin and Damon. Obviously, you guys kind of went with Damon's offer. What was it about kind of Damon's offer that was kind of, I mean, outside of maybe and maybe it was just, okay, he was offering a lower amount of equity, but it seems like what he wanted to do with it, from what I recall, was licensing play and kind of going that direction. Was it that maybe was more important to you guys, or was it just, hey, at the time he was offering kind of less than what Kevin was offering, so we decided that was kind of the better offer? What kind of went into kind of that process of picking him, Damon over Kevin?
I think for me, and David has his perspective too. For me, what Kevin was wanting to bring to the table and what he talked about was basically taking my role out.
Yeah, we could do that ourselves.
When he was talking about, well, I gotta get this to the distributors, and I gotta get this in front of blah blah blah. And I'm like, I live in Bentonville, Arkansas. I don't know if you know who's here, but it's just a little bitty old company named Walmart. I work with all the big retailers. I can put this in front of any retailer that I want to. I don't need help with distribution. And that was kind of my thought.
Gotcha.
Like, I love Mr. Wonderful. I think he's a fun guy. Like his personality seems awesome. I'd love to like have a beer with him one day, or wine in his case. But from a deal perspective, it was about who was going to complement us or bring something to the table that we needed help with. And Mr. Wonderful was wanting to focus more on distribution. And quite frankly, that was not our biggest issue.
Okay. No, yeah, and I guess that's a good point of it, because sometimes, like you said, at the end of the day, yeah, you want a deal, but you want to have somebody that brings experience that to really complement your guys' skill set. And it seems like in that case, Mr. Wonderful wasn't bringing anything different that you guys weren't already able to provide. And it seems like Damon kind of did it much so, which is a cool thing. So then you guys get to deal with Damon. I would imagine that kind of just being on the show and having that air, which we all know that just because you actually do the pitch doesn't mean that it's actually going to have an air date. I'm assuming that things kind of exploded in terms of the just kind of it being out there and it being on people's radar. Did kind of, was that like a whole separate thing to kind of get prepared for that traffic that you guys were going to see after being aired?
Yeah, we definitely had work to do to make sure everything was buttoned up, everything was ready to go. There's so much traffic hitting the site, making sure the site doesn't crash or anything. So yeah, we're busy, and we were throwing a really big party, so we were planning a bunch of stuff. So it was great opportunity. So
Yeah, I'll tell you, it was there was a lot that went into it, and I know we're gonna potentially run out of time here shortly, but I do think what's really interesting is about our story, and I don't want to overlook this, but what's really interesting about our story is, we filmed in June. We got notification we were going to air on November, like around November 1st, give or take. And then we aired on, I think it was the 22nd of November.
Really? So first like 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something?
That's all you get. You get a very small window. And so from the time it aired, I would say from the time we got notification we were going to air until today, things have just been nuts. And not just with Shark Tank. Like, I feel like life has just really happened to us in the last 3.5 months or whatever it's been. And so it's, there's been Shark Tank, which
we're tired.
Yeah, we're tired. to give people perspective, we get about 10 to 12 visitors on a good day on our website, just kind of poking in there.
Yeah.
That night, within like a 2.5 hour window, we had 27,000 people on our website just that night. And that doesn't count like, continuing on. That was just within like a 2 hour window.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is our cooler is an educational piece. Why is EVA better than your traditional cooler? And that's hard to explain to a lot of people. It's lightweight, it's durable, it holds more because the walls are thinner. Like a lot of that stuff you don't understand until you kind of educate someone. So the show really helped educate a lot of people and get why, this cooler is way different and it has all these benefits that I didn't even realize by just looking at it. So I think that was one of the main, pieces that Shark Tank helped us with.
Yeah, because with our product, we're trying to do a really tricky dance. And what I mean by that is there are coolers that are double our size that are half our price. You can go to Walmart or somewhere and find one of those. Yep. And there are coolers that are half our size that are double our price. Like a Yeti hopper is like $250. We put our cooler on our website at an MSRP of $125. Now you can find it on sale. Like if you go to REI right now, we just launched an REI, so we're about 111 REIs. If you go in there, you can find it for I think $99, so you can get a pretty good little discount there. Please go get it. We haven't sold it, because it's been cold. So please go to REI. But we're trying to do a really interesting dance because people look at our cooler and they either get it and they say, "Oh, it's really lightweight, it's cute, it floats, I love it, cool," or people look at it and they say, "Oh, it's my Yeti can do this can't," or, "Oh, I don't need it to do that. I just want a $20 cooler." So there's really like a subsegment of cooler users that we would apply to, and that's who we're trying to really get to and find and get our product in their hands. But yeah, so going back to what I was saying though, so we aired in November. We had family trips, holidays, all those things, and doing, trying to fulfill everything all through December. And then January was just it was tough. We had, I think between both of us, we had how many trades? We had Orlando, Vegas, Atlanta, Bentonville. I think we had 5 trade shows in 5 weeks. And we were just bouncing all over the place and juggling personal stuff and all kinds of things. So it's been a really long 3.5 months.
So with all that to say, we're so thankful for all of the people who purchased the cooler. Tell your friends, get the word out. If you haven't seen one in real life, go to REI, check it out. They're really cool. No pun intended.
Or pun intended.
And that's actually pretty interesting. I think I maybe kind of reached out to you guys maybe at the end of last year, and it was like, hey, and I understand, especially with a lot of kind of just businesses in general, that kind of Christmas holiday time is going to be a busy season. So it's understandable to be kind of patient at that point. I think one thing that you had mentioned that was interesting, and I was going to ask you about that you kind of talked about a little bit as far as being able to kind of tell that story. I know I had Wayne Fromm on, who's a Canadian inventor who invented the selfie stick. And he was kind of talking about early on, just people seeing the selfie stick in a packaging on the short stuff. And it's like, okay, it's like kind of looks cool, but kind of what is it? What does it do? And just really being able to explain that story. Now, obviously, like you said, Shark Tank helped out with that. How do you guys kind of deal with that now as far as being able to tell that story for people who may not understand kind of what's going on or the benefit or the difference of your guys' cooler just from kind of maybe looking at it?
It really comes down to our users. Like, people share what they like and enjoy. And really, that's partly why we're so busy, is because we take pride in talking to our customers, each and every one of them. Like, we're writing on boxes saying thank you. If someone has a problem, Chad's calling them and being like, hey, what can I do for you? How can I help? So it's not that we could ignore a lot of that stuff that companies do, but it's important to us to make sure that the customer is happy, that they understand.
Yep.
If there's something that happens, we're not perfect. Something can happen, and we're going to try to fix it the best we can. So and then each customer tells one of their friends and tells one of their friends, and then, oh, I saw this brand on Shark Tank, and that's how the best brands spread, is through communicating through your friends. So
we've made an intentional effort to get more in front of our customers, our users. And so whether that means you're going to start seeing here in the next, like through this summer season, you're going to start seeing a lot more content from us, of us putting out videos. Nice. I tell people, like, I was doing this to someone the other day, and this really clicks with people because they look at this and they're like, oh, it's, it might be styrofoam. And I say, well, look, it's flexible, like it'll bend in half, but try to bend it this way and you can't, so it's flexible and it's durable. And I think putting out more content and just showing people like what makes it different, like what it can do, getting like we're non-existent on TikTok right now, getting on TikTok and just like showing people and doing fun things. Or maybe I go rent a steamroller for a weekend, jump on the live and watch me run it over a whole bunch of times. Or, just we got to get more in front of people. That's part of it. The other part is, like David said, we need the people that do find it and love it. We really need the help of them to go into stores, tell their friends, whatever. Hey, listen, if you want to stream from the rooftop and you want to go tell a bunch of people, call us up, let us know. We'll set you up like an affiliate code or something, whatever. Like, just, we're here to work with people. And I know it's tough right now. Like, I mean, I know it's, I'm not blind to what's going on in retail and what's going on in people's homes and wallets and things. And I know being $125 cooler that's a lot to most everybody. And so we're not naive to that. And so, we appreciate everybody that does decide to jump on this journey with us.
And I think that's a good point. Like you said, with the affiliate codes, as well as, and it seems like, especially these days, that's one of the big things with entrepreneurship is with social media, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever the case may be, being able to kind of reach your audience, your community directly, as opposed to having to kind of go through a big box retailer, which seems to be important. I know I was at the Shark Tank reunion conference in Tampa, I think in January, and they kind of talked a lot about kind of being able to leverage social media to your benefit, particularly like TikTok, I think TikTok Shop or TikTok Store and Shopify and some of these other kind of platforms, which it seems like, man, that's definitely going to be a game changer. And once you guys, like you said, put out that content. Let me ask you guys this, and just a couple more questions here as we wrap up. Obviously, we know business is not like a kind of linear kind of progression where it's just kind of up over time. You have the kind of more of a sine wave where you have the ups and the downs and trying to kind of get through it all. What was maybe number one, the biggest challenge that you guys had to overcome up until this point in the business? Then what was kind of the biggest breakthrough? Was the breakthrough the IP? Was it maybe being on Shark Tank? What would you say is the biggest breakthrough that you guys have encountered at this point? So again, I guess maybe first part is the biggest challenge that you guys had to overcome. Then the biggest breakthrough that you guys have had at this point in time.
I can take the challenge unless you.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. David, you and I'll probably build on to David's challenge, but go ahead. And then because I will tell you this, like, it's probably 70% challenges, 30% breakthroughs. And, and that's just that's not just business, that's life in general, right?
No, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, David, jump in there, man.
Challenges are opportunities if you look at them
I
correctly.
like that.
So really, if you're solving a challenge, so the challenge that popped into my head was the manufacturing of this product. This was not easy, and we're on our third tool, so there's lots of tweaks and lots of calls with manufacturing and stuff. It was the first prototype I got. It did not look great. It was beat up, and it was not something that I could sell. So, put a lot of money into something that I couldn't sell, was, real letdown. So, that the biggest challenge, I guess, and breakthrough would be kind of getting that through the manufacturing process.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
I like what David said there. That was a challenge and a breakthrough. Like getting this thing manufactured was a real challenge. And David was told multiple times that it just couldn't happen. Matter of fact, we were told multiple times that doing a swirl couldn't happen.
Really?
But then, the spirit of competition, when you find another factory that says they can do it, your other factory all of a sudden figures it out. So, competition helped there. But I will say, I'll agree with David that the breakthrough on that piece of the challenge was definitely getting it manufactured. For me, and I'll go a little bit more on a personal level here to say the biggest challenge from my side has just been doing life while doing this. And what I mean by that is just there's a lot that we both have kids. Mine are a little bit younger. David's are a little more teenagers. We both have wives. We have job. Like David has his design company. He has a company called Endeavor Design. I have a company called Endeavor Retail. We work together, but we're separate companies. For me, like it's a small piece of what I do, but it is still something that takes time. And then in with that, you have things that just happen in life. And, David knows I'm going to bring this up, but like for me personally, in December, my wife was diagnosed with 2 different types of cancers.
Oh, wow.
And one of them she got over, they were able to remove it. And then the other one, she actually just got back this week. She's been traveling to Mayo to get the plan in place. So, I think a lot of times people look at like you're on Shark Tank, you got a business, you have cool product, you have all this stuff, like everything's going well. And I'm like, look, we're broke. We got life going on. We got kids screaming, we got all these things. But you got to push through and you got to just stay on top of it and keep going. And David and I all the time, I think what's really kept us going is just that we just figure it out. Like we just figure it out. And if we have to ask for help, we ask for help, so I will say that's been the biggest challenge from my side. And to complement that with a breakthrough has just been the massive amount of people that have come out and helped us. And if you look at our website, you'll see like 5 different people on there. And I can tell you, not a single person on there has a salary. Nobody.
Yeah.
It's we got a lot of people that jump in and help us and want to be a part of our journey and be part of helping us. So that's been a huge breakthrough for me. It's just seeing how many people showed up.
No, and I love that. Just really kind of just talking about the more so reality of the situation where, like you said, a lot of people may kind of sit back and look at this person on Shark Tank, or they got a cool website, they have a cool product. But again, it's still running a businesses, and just running a business can be challenged, whether it's kind of payroll or manufacturing, or the number of challenges that may kind of pop up. That doesn't mean that, seems like as you guys have kind of been able to kind of figure it out and get through it, that doesn't mean there's no answers you guys can't get through it, but it is something that you guys have to kind of deal with as you're dealing with life. Because like you said, the customers, they don't necessarily care that you're going through maybe personal issues. They maybe want their cooler in a timely manner or whatever the case may be. So just kind of understanding all that and still being able to work through it. That's, like you said, just kind of reality of business that people have to kind of really understand as they're kind of jumping into this thing. So I mean, I definitely appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, no, you're right. The customers don't always know, and it's not even just customers. I'll tell you, one quick story as we get to wrap up here. We had a customer, or have a customer, in the Panhandle of Florida, and I was late shipping her order out. And so she was emailing like, hey, where's our order at? Like, what's going on? Why is this taking so long? Blah, blah, blah. we met in January and all this stuff. And then I just picked up the phone and called her and I just said, hey, look, this is Chad. I'm one of the founders here. I was like, I'm responsible for shipping your order out. It's on me. I was like, I don't want to make excuses, but like, this is what's going on. This is this is what we're doing. We're working as fast as we can. And I was telling her a little bit about our personal situation with my wife. And she was like, oh my gosh. She's like, you're not going to believe this, but I'm going through this with my daughter and she's going through treatment and all this. And it just like, it was like, once they found out you're a real person and you found out they're a real person, then it's like, oh, all this other stuff's forgiven,
For sure.
We just got to remember that. We got to remember that. And that's why we're so focused on growing intentional and sustainably, because like David said, we want to figure out ways that we can always stay close to our customers. I can't promise that we can write on boxes forever, but we can find ways to be close with our customers. And some of that is just being accessible, all of our information's out there. So, yeah.
No, yeah. And I like that. And like you said, other people are going through things too. And that may be kind of added to their frustration on their end. So that may not even have been about you in terms of getting things late, but maybe she was kind of going through that situation with her daughter, and that was kind of building up frustration within her. So she was maybe taking it out on kind of everyone that she was encountering, as opposed to it being kind of about maybe getting the product, a couple of days later or whatever the case may be. So like you said, people are going through things, and just understanding that, hey, we're all kind of really kind of real people, and being able to hopefully kind of share those things or kind of touch base and communicate. I think you guys were saying that earlier in terms of the important stuff. Communicating with the customers or just kind of with everybody in the supply chain. I think that always helps out at the end of the day, especially when it's time to come to a resolution. Let me ask you guys this, just kind of wrap up things. And before I get to how can people kind of follow you guys on social media platforms or kind of purchase the product, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs? I know we have talked about this, kind of talk about it in a roundabout way kind of throughout the interview, whether it's don't take no for an answer and kind of some of the other things that you guys kind of have thrown out there and sharing your story. But as someone who's maybe kind of playing this double Dutch game of, do I get off into entrepreneurship? I got this idea, or I have this kind of product or service that I want to kind of bring out to the people. Do I kind of get out? Do I put it out there and kind of go forward with kind of starting a business and becoming an entrepreneur? Or do I not? What advice would you give to maybe those people who are kind of going through that battle within themselves?
Yeah, so I would say nothing amazing happens in your comfort zone. So get uncomfortable. Every single successful thing that I've done has been after a really uncomfortable situation. So was Shark Tank comfortable? Not one bit. but after you get past it, then you realize, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought, and there's all these amazing things that can flourish from that. So I would say push yourself. You're more resilient, and you're capable of doing way more than you think.
I would just say take intentional risk, not reckless risk. But regardless, you got to take risk either way, and just make sure it's intentional. Make sure you take into account your family and things like that. But you don't have to be reckless, but you do need to be intentional. But you're gonna have to take a risk.
And I like both of those, like you said, and they're kind of really they're kind of saying the same thing in terms of kind of, you got to be uncomfortable and kind of do some things that's going to make you uncomfortable, or you're not going to be able to grow and flourish in this kind of state of comfort. So, I love that. And a lot of times, man, it's cool just talking to you, to you guys, and just kind of businesses, because a lot of this stuff I'm kind of saying generally for the audience, but it's still a lot of this stuff applies to me and kind of different things that I'm going through at different points. So I get a chance to kind of heed some of the same kind of advice and tips that you guys are kind of giving to the audience, which is cool. So then I guess kind of to wrap up here, maybe the most important things, how can people follow you guys on social media? How can they follow Foam Coolers? And then how can they purchase the product?
Yeah, that's the easy part, right? Like we're easy to find. You can go to foamcooler.com, you can go to foamisfun.com. Either one works. You can find us our handle on pretty much every social channel is at Foam Cooler. So whether it's Instagram or Facebook or whatever, you can reach out to us on LinkedIn. If you ever need any help, you can find us on Facebook. As far as buying a cooler, I would ask people, like, we're going into season right now. REI is a big launch for us. They're a big, important customer. If you live near an REI, I would graciously ask you to go to REI and buy one. But if you don't have an REI near you, and you want to get one, but still get the REI price, Dave, you tell me what you want the code to be. I'll make a code up, and for your listeners, and they can go and get a discount on our website.
Nice. No, yeah, and I would just say just maybe put David Spears, and then whatever, if it's 10%, if it's 20%, put that number, David Spears, then the number, and we'll definitely kind of get that out there to the people so that they can go and support. Right? I like that. And then kind of
David Spears 20 then.
Okay, perfect. And I know I do the interviews, but I also do like the current events and maybe some other stuff. And I'll definitely shout out or include the code in those descriptions to those videos as well, so that people can go support it. Because again, we're coming up on the springtime and summer, and people are going to start having fun again outside. Absolutely. It's definitely the right time to buy, especially when you can get it kind of before the season at a discount. So yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Absolutely. No, we appreciate you.
Yeah, I'll leave you with this. On our site, we typically say we're so lucky to be a part of some of the best days of your life. So, hey, thank you for letting us join you on your journey.
I like that. So, audience, hey, you heard it. You heard it from the co-founders, David as well as Chad. Hopefully, you guys had the pencils out, your papers out. They had a number of phenomenal things that they talked about, both with business and then kind of dealing with business with personal challenges, but also kind of continue to head down and find through it all. And again, I think one of the biggest things that I came out with is you got to get a little uncomfortable if you want to grow and flourish and kind of move on to that next phase in life on a positive note. So hopefully you guys had your pencils out. Definitely go purchase the product. If you're not near REI, hey, use the discount code David Spears 20 that I'm going to put in the description box to be able to kind of get that discount. And hey, man, it's summertime going around. I know a lot of people have boats. A lot of people have picnics, family reunions, things of that sort that's coming about. So, hey, go get a cooler that maybe the last cooler that you ever need based on kind of the durability piece of it and the fact that it's lightweight and floats and things like that. It has a lot of uses as well. So hopefully you guys take advantage of the discount and have foam coolers be a part of your fun days going forward. So till next time, audience, you guys take care. Peace.